Hello, my name is Kade. Thank you for tuning in to Catching Up with Kade. I think I am going to do a 4-part series here, a little mini season, I guess if you want to say, about growth, positivity, transformation, uplifting things to hopefully encourage somebody who might be dealing with a difficult time right now. In this episode, I am going to talk about the struggle, reframing the struggle, a little bit of a deeper dive into it, practical growth habits. I'm going to have a few challenges for you to either take a look in the mirror and ask yourself or ask somebody else. And I'm going to kind of close it all up. So I'm going to try and keep these episodes about 30 to 40 minutes each. This will be episode 1 of a 4-part series about growth and encouraging, I guess, if you will. So, yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Most people think obstacles block the path, when in reality, obstacles are the path. So, take that however you will. You can sit down and really ponder on it, or you can start to reevaluate things that may be going on in your life, in your path. Just because there's a massive roadblock there, you can, I'm going to use construction as an example. When there's a roadblock on the road because of construction, typically there's a detour route somewhere you can go to get to the same destination that you were trying to go to. Now, if the road blows up, that's a whole nother situation. But in most cases, there is a detour. There is other ways to get to the destination. I said it in the last episode. There are multiple roads that lead to the same destination. Just because somebody is taking a left when you're taking a right does not mean you are wrong. You're just going a different way than they are. So I hope you think about that. Life throws things at us that feel impossible. Doors slam, plans fail, people disappoint, and sometimes we just fall. But here's the truth. Every setback carries a secret, a stepping stone, if you will. Growth doesn't happen when life is easy. It happens when life is messy. When you hit the floor and still choose to get back up. Today, we are talking about that messy, uncomfortable, beautiful process. Beautiful process. The process of turning setbacks into growth. And by the end of this episode, I want you to feel something. You can rise from anything. Let's get into it. Let's be real for a second. Staying positive is not easy at all. It's not about fake smiles or ignoring reality. Life can knock the wind out of you, metaphorically speaking and literally. There are days where positivity can feel like a joke just because everything is sucking the positivity out of you. I've been there. I'm not going to go because this is not a story about me. I gave you the story about me. Now I want to try to uplift and encourage others. But trust me, I have been there. You know that moment when everything seems to go wrong all at once? It happens a little bit more often than I think we would like, Now, this could be with anything: work, relationship, personal goals. It all stocks up. One conflict, one bad thing occurring in your life, it can definitely be hard to just let it control that one part of your life. It often bleeds into other aspects of what is going on. You wake up and you think, how do I even start today? If it's something that's been dragging on, it just keeps going and going and going, and seems like you're in this never-ending loop, and that's not a good cycle to be in. It is normal if you are in that cycle. I'm not saying it's just unnormal and there's nothing we can do, because I'm trying to give you ways to address your problems and grow from them. And I'm not some schooled psychiatrist or professor who knows all of this and that, but I do have a lot of life experience. In my young life, I have experienced a lot of stuff that some people will never experience, and I pray that they never experience, but I don't beat myself up for the things that I've done now that I'm older and have used them as stepping stones and used them as fuel for growth instead of fuel for the fire, So I have here listed a few reasons why staying positive can be a challenge. I like to call out excuses and cultural toxic positivity. That's definitely what I think has something to do with it, is excuses and culturally toxic positivity. Now, I have some examples of each and every one. I'll go ahead and read those off here. A very commonly used one is that's just the way I am. To dodge accountability, I feel like some people just don't feel like putting in the work, so they always go back to, oh, that's just the way I am. They didn't like it, so that's just not the way I like it. When in reality, it may not be that they don't like it, it's just the way that they don't do it, and they're not comfortable with change and comfortable with a new way of doing things. And that could definitely be keeping you in this negative cycle, Break those chains. Please break those chains. I don't have time is a very common excuse for not taking accountability. Somehow, there is always time for scrolling, binge watching, or complaining. But there's never time to complete certain tasks. I don't agree with that at all. I'm going to give a little bit of a personal reference here and shout out my girlfriend for this. She was a full-time student working a full-time job taking care of me when I first got out of the hospital. And some people didn't have time to meet with me for lunch, or some people didn't have time to watch something that I had sent them. And by all means, that is all on them. But I get life is busy. But if you do not take time out of your day to hold yourself accountable and check what you're doing to improve your situation, nothing's going to change. Nothing will improve because you don't have time. I don't like that excuse. We all have 24 hours in a day, and some people know how to manage those hours and some people do not know how to manage those hours. Or they're told just because you have to work from this time to this time and start over again in the next day, that you can't do anything else. That's ridiculous. There are 9-to-5ers out there who grind and go to the gym before work, after work, get up in the morning, take their kids to school. Like, if you're pushed into a corner, if you're pushed, your back is put to the wall, you will fight and figure out how to get things done. That's kind of the human way. And it's the same thing for your mental health and holding yourself accountable. If you're just scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on Instagram, binge watching TV shows instead of trying to grow and improve yourself, you're just going to be stuck in that cycle. Personal opinion, but we're each entitled to our own. Another excuse I have here is it's too late for me. People act like growth has an expiration date when really the only thing that's expired is their willingness. I mean, I think there's a running back a few years ago who was 40-something years old, 50-something years old maybe even, who always dreamed about playing college football and never got around to it. Well, he turned in 50-something, 40-something, however old he was, and started for a D1 school or maybe D2 school. I don't know exactly where, but it is never too late to chase your dreams. It is never too late to change your situation. Now, if you're dead, I mean, it's kind of too late at that point, but realistically, while you are on this earth and have control of your life, I don't ever think it's too late to self-reflect and grow and learn new things. Now, it is a lot harder to teach an old dog new tricks, but it is possible. I guarantee it is possible. And as long as you keep that positive mindset of wanting to improve and wanting to become more, it will happen. Speak it into the world, my friends. Speak it into the world and pray about it relentlessly and watch how things change. I tried once and it didn't work. Mistaking a failed attempt as a permanent identity rather than part of the process. That is huge. You know, this episode is called Turning Setbacks into Stepping Stones. Everything that is supposed to happen is going to happen, whether it's good or bad. I believe that. So when things just aren't going your way for a repeated amount of time, you just got to keep trying something until it works. Another excuse that I have listed here is it'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is a treadmill. It keeps moving, but you stay in place. That's a crazy way to think about it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll get to it the next day. Well, tomorrow is not promised. What is promised is the present. We can reflect and ponder on the past, and we can think about and ponder on the future as well. But the actions that we choose in this present tense will directly affect that future possibility. Nothing is guaranteed. I cannot stress that enough. Nothing is guaranteed. So make the most out of your time today, out of the time that you do have with your friends, with your family. Tell them that you love them. Tell them you care about them. Check in on your strong friends. The one person who may seem to be doing the best is typically the person who is hurting the most. So always check in on your strong friends. Now, this is going to go over to toxic positivity. I have a few points here. Hustle culture. If you're not grinding 24/7, you're a failure. Instead of balanced growth, people burn themselves out trying to live up to an impossible standard. And I blame a lot of that on social media. Everybody, and especially with the younger generation, everybody is shown this world that these celebrities live in and expect it to be maybe easy, or expect to have it just like them, when in reality it's not that simple. Now, if you're born into a billionaire family, I mean, a little different there, but for your average citizen, no. You have to work for what you have, and you're appreciative, and learn to be appreciative of everything you have, because you know what it takes to get that. You knew how it was before, and you know what it has with. And I would much rather spend my time in an apartment. It's not the biggest. It is very nice. It's not the biggest, but I'm so thankful to have a roof over my head. I could be in a storage box and be fine. I've been out on a street before, slept in front of a CVS before, in front of a 7-Eleven before, like having a roof over my head. I could care less if I have a nice bed, as long as I have a bed. It's all about perspective. It is all about perspective, my friends. And until you realize that, a lot will not change mentally. Perfection worship. If it's not flawless, it's worthless. People would rather not start than risk being seen as imperfect. Embrace your flaws. Embrace your flaws, because that's what makes them you. That's what makes you unique, is your flaws. Nobody's perfect. You show me one single perfect person on this earth, and I will wait, because they are not on this earth. They came down from heaven and died on the cross for our sins. But you show me any man now that is perfect, I'll wait. Now, there are a lot of people who can be as close to perfect as you think. And again, that's all your opinion, but I'll wait. I will always wait. Comparison culture. Look at where they are compared to you. Social media breeds this poison, convincing people that growth must look like someone else's highlight reel. And that's tough. I just touched up on that point. Don't compare to other people, because at the end of the day, your measure of success is always going to differ from somebody else's measure of success. Success to me is having food on my table, having a roof over my head, and a loving family. That's very successful to me. Some people's measure of success is having the newest, nicest car, the biggest house. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what your success is, then by all means, chase it and go for gold. But don't get stuck comparing your level of success to somebody else's. And that might be a question that you need to just ask yourself. Get a notebook out. Go buy a notebook and write down your affirmations in that book, and read them over constantly and write them repeatedly, not just one day, every day of the week, the next day. Just keep writing them and speak your success out. This last point that I have here is shame as a motivation. You should be ashamed of yourself if you're not there yet. Instead of encouraging progress, society often guilt trips people into paralysis, and that's tough. I personally don't experience that a lot because what a lot of people say to me, I listen to understand, but it goes in one ear and goes out the other typically if it's derogatory or condescending, because I don't pay too much mind to people who are trying to bring me down or people who have not been in my situation. Something else that I live by is if you can't relate, don't debate. You know, if you've never been on the streets, don't talk to me about being on the streets. If you've never been kicked out of your parents' house, don't talk. Yeah, that could be a whole nother situation, and I'm really not going to dive into that. So don't shame somebody for trying. Don't shame somebody because you're scared to do it. I have been seeing these inspirational quotes on my Instagram. One goes as followed: if you played Monopoly, you should know if you don't take the risk, you're going to end up paying it to somebody who did. And that just makes me hungry. I'm dealing with some other stuff right now, getting ready for my concert. If you didn't know, I do have a concert in November, Dallas, Texas. I would love for everybody to come and be a part of it. If you want the ticket link, you could email me or DM me. A little bit of promo in there. So shouts out to everyone coming. It's going to be lit. We're going to have a great time, and we're spreading love and positivity for the rest of this year and the rest of my life. So let's go. Let's turn up. On to the next bullet point: reframing the struggle. Think about Thomas Edison, right? I was going to kind of say something. It took him hundreds of tries before he finally figured out the correct way to make the light bulb, if I'm not mistaken. You can fact check me. Every failure was not the end. It fueled it was fuel that narrowed down the possibilities. Without those wrong attempts, the right answer never shows up. And that can be with a lot of things in life. You know, you just got to keep trying until you succeed, and go and go and go. Because if it fails once, that doesn't mean it'll happen again. If it fails twice, you now know 2 ways not to do something, and you just got to keep building on that mentality. Do not use failure and setbacks as a dead end, as a stopping zone, when all it is doing is showing you the incorrect way to perform whatever it is you may be trying to do. A seed has to be buried in dirt before it grows. Shoved down, damp, cold. It's literally in the dark and pushed all the way down before it starts growing. Without that, it would not be able to flourish and do what it is supposed to do. You can look at the same thing with the diamond, you know. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's just carbon until all that pressure builds up and forms it into the beautiful gem that it is. Without extreme pressure, it's just carbon. Struggle is the pressure that gives us shape. And I love that. I love the diamond reference. I love the seed reference, because not everybody sees growth. You don't see that seed growing in the ground. All you see is the plant that it produces. And I think a lot of that is applicable in our lives, you know, when we're starting out in whatever it may be that we're doing. My photography business, for instance, I got told I got told that I wasn't going to do this. I got told that I couldn't talk about it in whichever way that I was talking about it. And, you know, I just kept asking, can I take pictures? Can I take pictures? Can I take pictures? Can I take pictures? Somebody said yes, saw that I did good work. And the next person said yes, saw that I did good work. And it just kind of snowballed after that. And I presented myself in my business as a professional photography business, and nobody saw it as the professional business that it was, because they knew who I was behind the camera. They were like, oh, he just goes and takes pictures. Well, some random guy just going and taking pictures didn't get on the field of a NCAA college bowl game. A guy just taking pictures didn't get on the field of a major league soccer sporting event, not only for regular season, but for playoffs as well. A lot of people don't see the success until you're already there. You know what I'm saying? I was grinding all day, every day, trying to grow this business and transform it into something that it ultimately was. And nobody saw it until I started getting noticed by all these random people, professional athletes. I can't really say celebrities because I don't really know if any celebrities paid me any mind, but that's fine. I'm not worried about it. But more notable figures started reaching out and complimenting my work. And now all of a sudden I'm getting praise from my friends when you really weren't supporting me from the jump. You weren't supporting me from the get-go. And now that I'm here, it's crazy. The amount of people that congratulate you versus the amount of people that show up and support you when you're on the rise. There's always so many more people that congratulate rather than support the grind and growth. Fact. You know exactly who you are. And if you feel offended any kind of way because of this video, you know where I live. You got my phone number. You got my social media accounts. You're more than welcome to message me and tell me you feel some kind of way, because I'm doing nothing but spreading love and positivity. So if you, what's that? I don't know. I kind of got a little upset there. I don't know if I'm going to keep that in the video or not, but if I don't, I'm sorry. I went off on a little tandem there for a second. I love y'all. Another example of this is Michael Jordan, per ChatGPT, got cut from his high school basketball team. He didn't see it as the end. The struggle lit a fire to drive him to become one of the greatest athletes ever. I still think that's crazy. I think I've heard that growing up, Michael Jordan not making his basketball team or making B team, something like that, and then going on to be Michael Jordan. Imagine how that coach felt after he made it to the NBA and started doing everything he started doing in the NBA. Wild. You never see somebody's full potential until they're obviously shining. And if you do see somebody's full potential before they are shining, give them praise, show love, show out for them. You know, I support all of my friends in their endeavors, no matter what they're doing or where they're at in life. And I hope nothing but success for them. I would never wish the downfall of any of my friends because of jealousy, or it's a competition. I'm not going to lie. It is a competition, but I was always the type of athlete after a football game, after we lost, I'm still going to go shake their hands and say, good game. You know, don't be a Debbie Downer. Don't hate. Just don't hate. It's not cool to hate, bro. Now, will there still be hate? Yes, but don't do it. Just don't do it. Or if you want to do it, you know, if that's your way to live, go ahead. Just keep that energy away from me, bro, and out of here. So I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into the photography situation when I first bought my camera and started a business. I was working at a dealership at the time, and I'd always wanted a camera. I'd always loved taking pictures of random things. I mean, my aunt can attest to this. I had a camera one day and I was taking pictures of my uncle inside of the grocery store, just like randomly. I just enjoyed taking pictures. I always thought it was fun to express my creativity in a tangible way, you know, photos, tangible. So working at this dealership, it was very long hours. We would get there at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., I was never really on time, but I still showed up, and I wouldn't get out until 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I think, on the weekends, 7 o'clock during the weekdays. So that's a big chunk of time. That's 8. And when I finally had saved up money and bought this camera, I was taking pictures of my friends who raced dirt bikes at the time, and some lady had came up to me and asked me, hey, how much do you charge for pictures? And that just lit a light bulb off in my head at the track. She was like, hey, my son is racing. How much do you charge for pictures? And it just, of course, I never really thought of myself as a business owner or a business starter until that question. And from there, it just lit a fire, and I made an Instagram account, I made a website, I made business cards. The website is still active. I still use the Instagram, and I still, do take pictures professionally, not to the amount that I was doing before, but I did have a very big setback. But leading up to this, I ended up leaving the dealership because I could not work on my business. I could not grow my business. I could not put the time and effort into building a business while working a job. That was a decision that I had to make. It was a little bit of a financial burden, but I made it work because that is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue my passion and not be told when to go to work, when I had free time, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make my own hours and tell myself when I'm showing up to do a job that I want to do. The biggest challenge was definitely growing it, though. Like I said, a lot of people don't really see the vision until they see the polished product, the finished product. So when I was approaching all these people about, hey, can I take pictures, can I take, your product photos? They were like, oh, well, a lot of them really required a portfolio, a strong portfolio that backed the stuff. Now, I'm kind of the same way. If I were to ever be shopping for a photographer, I'd want to see a photographer's work. If some random photographer is telling me, oh yeah, I can do these photos for you and I need 200 photos edited, I'd like to see a decent amount of work before I drop $700 on a photographer, knowing, oh yeah, they're going to be able to execute the vision that I want or mold maybe something even better than what I want. That was very detrimental. I heard 99 no's before I heard one yes. I still kept asking. That didn't stop me from asking and still trying to succeed and still trying to grow my business. During that time, there definitely was a mindset switch. Like, okay, this is not going to be as easy as I thought. Anybody can just click a button, but I still think not everybody can take a good photo. Anybody can buy a $3,000 camera, click a button and take a photo, but it doesn't always mean it's going to be a good photo. I live by that. I stand by that. Quality over quantity. That's always what I built my business on, and now I'm trying to improve the quantity while still upholding the quality. I think something I had learned in sales, it was you can pick two, but you can't have all three: fast, cheap, and good. You can't have all three, so you got to pick one. You got to pick two out of the three. You can get it cheap and fast, but it's probably not going to be good, or you can get it good and fast, but it's probably not going to be cheap, or you can get it good and cheap, but it's probably not going to be fast. I don't know. It was something along those lines. If I can find a picture, I'll put it up. But yeah, that was really just a big mindset switch. Was realizing, okay, I'm going to have to dive into this. I'm going to have to go all in to my hand and play the cards that I were dealt. And I ended up, of course, showing out. If you think for a second that the opportunity to go take pictures at a college bowl game was just handed to me, you'd be mistaken very heavily, because I put in groundwork and marketed myself and networked and talked and made connections to achieve that. Can anybody do it? Probably, yeah. I think a lot of people can do it. If you put in the time and the effort, doors that you didn't even think were there would open. Never, when I've at first bought a camera, did I think I'm going to be a professional sports photographer on the field of a Major League Soccer tournament. I mean, never. I never would have thought that, but look at where it got me. Not taking no for an answer. Now, I'm not saying if somebody tells you no, you need to keep pushing them until they say yes, because obviously in some situations, if somebody tells you no, then just back off. But when it comes to setbacks, a lot of the times your setbacks aren't no's. They're just telling you, hey, it's not the right way to do this. There's better, stronger ways to get things done. So I want to talk about practical growth habits. I think gratitude is a great start. Not just being grateful for something, but having genuine gratitude for a subject that could be weighing you down, reforming self-talk. Reforming self-talk is a great way to start the positive mindset shift. It's a growth habit, I guess. Instead of saying I failed, say I learned. Instead of viewing a setback as something derogatory or as something demeaning, see it as a opportunity to learn. And I promise you will be thankful for your fails. You will be thankful for your flaws if you start shifting your mindset to look at it in those types of ways, instead of saying, well, yeah, I can't, I'm not going to do it that way. Just keep improving and trying to improve. And I think that is a great way to do it, is flip the shift of self-reform to instead of I failed to I learned. Another one that I have is embracing discomfort. It's not comfortable. Change is not comfortable. Going back to starting my photography business, I did not want to leave my job, but I knew I had to do that in order to grow my business and let it become what it is. And it was not fun. It was not comfortable. That is, financial burdens are never fun, but it was a necessary step to unlock my potential. And I did. Thankfully, I did. Thank God that I did, because it got me into a multitude of places that I never thought I would be able to get into prior to. So, embrace discomfort. Track your small wins. So whether that's hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, however you want to manage it, track your small wins. Congratulate yourself. Don't set this big, massive goal. If you look at trying to make this big chunk of change, don't look at it as just this big chunk of change, right? Break it down. So let's say you want to make $120,000 a year, and you see just $120,000, and that's all you picture and that's all you envision. Break it down. $10,000 over 12 months. It's $430 a day. That's 430 $10 products. You know what I'm saying? There's different ways to look at it. I'm not saying that's a specific example, but if you look at $120,000 and that's all you're thinking of, obviously, yes, keep that in the back of your mind because that is the goal, but don't just see it as this big daunting task, because you're going to be thinking of, well, what's something that I could sell that's worth $120,000, instead of breaking it down and appreciating the path, the journey to get you to that number, Lastly, I have on here is community, surrounding yourself with people who grow. I cannot stress that enough. My grandmother, and I'm sure a lot of people's parents, have told them, you are who you surround yourself with. And when I was not engaging in good activities and messing up in life, I was not always surrounded by the best people. Now, do I still keep in contact with some of those people? Yes, because we have grown as men and realized what we were doing is not the correct way. And there's a lot of people that I also have cut off that still are choosing to do the same exact things that they were doing and not really benefiting themselves or benefiting me for that matter. And that's hard. It's not comfortable cutting off somebody who you might have spent every day with. It's not a fun thing to do, but if you want to level up and go, I do think a lot of it has to do with the people that you surround yourself with. Fortunately, late in the more recent years of my life, I have been surrounded by very successful people, professional athletes, billionaires. I never thought I didn't really ever know when, I guess, I was going to be able to sit down and actually have a conversation with a billionaire. But having a conversation with him completely shifted my perspective on everything, because they view stuff so much differently than we do. We see $1 million and think it's a lot of money. Well, it is a lot of money, but he has 999 cents. I mean, a B is scary rich, is scary money. And now, again, everybody's success level is different depending on what they think is successful. But a B, like, holy cow, he has 2 pet giraffes. Like I asked him how he got it. That's kind of how this whole conversation got started. Was he had a giraffe head cover, and I was like, "Oh, do your kids like giraffes?" And he was like, "Well, I have 2 of them." So I looked at him. I said, "Shut up! Like, seriously, what?" And he was like, "No, I'm being serious. I have 2 giraffes. I went to the Cincinnati Zoo and bought them." Like, what, bro? So obviously, I had a million different questions, and he continued to spill the beans about everything and becoming successful. And I think it's so cool, obviously. Well, I don't know where I was going with that point, but everybody's level of success is different. But that's just somebody that I was around, and was able to speak with and speak to. And I do believe I surround myself around like-minded people who want to grow and expand and learn from their mistakes, not make the same ones repeatedly, and that's beneficial to growth, is being around like-minded people. I cannot stress that enough. If you are the only one, it seems like you're the only one with ambition out of your group, it might be time to find a new friend group. If everybody is going out to the bar on Friday and Saturday and don't really have anything else planned going on, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. But if you want to grow and become successful, I'm sorry. There are, I'm sure, a lot of wealthy people that go out to the bar on Fridays and Saturdays, but usually the very wealthy people are going out for a business lunch in the middle of the week and maybe wrapping it into dinner. I cannot stress enough, you will not find, yes, you still will find a lot of very wealthy people at the club. I take that back. There are very successful people who do still go out and party and be at the club, but most of them are getting ready for sleep because they got to get up in the morning, and I don't know. That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother subject, I guess. So I don't know. Every night this week, I want to give you all a challenge. Every night, write down one frustration that you have and how you can improve it or grow on it. It doesn't have to be anything major. It could be very small. And I want you to write it down in a journal and think about it. Think about what you can do to change the situation. It could be something from that day that's kind of bothering you. Write it down. Figure out what you will do next time that challenge presents itself, or if it's a reoccurring problem, figure out what you can do to resolve that problem. I think that might help exponentially. It's something that I'm going to do, and I'm challenging you to do. A challenge a day. Just write it down and see where it gets you. The main message is setbacks are stepping stones. Do not forget that. Always take them as a lesson always take them as a lesson instead of a setback. They are meant to happen. What's meant to happen will happen, and what's not will not. Take a lot of these losses with a grain of salt, because they are life is trying to teach you something in your journey to become successful, or wherever it is that you may be going. So I pray and I hope nothing but success for you and everybody that is watching this video. Please share your growth stories in my DMs. Email me. I would love to hear if you can relate to this at all, and if this has helped you in any kind of situation. Please DM me. I would love to talk about it, and maybe you have more questions for me that I can answer. Please don't be afraid to ask. Always remember, life does not get easier, but you get stronger. Every setback you survive is proof you're building something incredible inside. Every scar has a story. So again, don't think life gets easier, because you are getting stronger. Life may get easier. I'm not saying it doesn't get easier, but in a lot of the times, life doesn't get easier. You just get stronger. Please remember that. Be a light to somebody today. Be positive to somebody. Spread love, not hate, because there's so much negativity in this world, and let's do better. Let's do better. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. If you made it to this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Again, I am going to be trying to do an episode a week. This is going to be the first episode of a 4-part mini series, so we'll see how it goes. If you have any questions, again, please DM me. Let me know how I can help, and stay tuned. I love y'all. Stay beautiful and stay blessed. Peace.